First of all, I do want to thank, obviously, all the media for coming out today. You guys have been great on this story, but I particularly want to thank our partners that are with us in this meeting. It was a great exchange of ideas. I believe the administration and the governor's office will be taking back things to Beacon Hill that they think are tangible, that can make a difference in safety. Inside the room were the department heads for the city of Fall River. We had representatives from Senator Markey's office, Senator Warren's office, our Congressman Jake Auchincloss. Our local state delegation was also well represented with Representative Willett, Viola, Sylvia, and Senator Michael Rodrigues. All have been here from day one to try to help to improve safety in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in spite of a horrific tragedy that occurred in the city of Fall River. I'm not going to talk today. I'm going to introduce my good friend, Governor Healey. We were on the phone last night at probably about 9 o'clock at night trying to get property out of one of the rooms at the Gabriel House to help a tenant. That's how involved she's been from the get-go on this. She was here Monday. I probably talked to her 3 or 4 times this week and again last night, and she's down again today. It's the kind of hands-on leadership I like seeing in a crisis, and I can't thank her enough for her interest in ways to improve not only safety in the city of Fall River, but across our state. And again, I want to make sure she gets credit for that, because I believe in my heart of hearts that she really did as much as possible to help the city of Fall River and make it safer going forward with her involvement after this tragedy occurred to all of us on Sunday night. So again, thank you, Governor Healey.
Thank you, Mayor Coogan, for hosting us today and for your steady leadership throughout this very difficult time. Thank you to Chair Rodrigues, to Representatives Viola, Sylvia, and Olet for your continued partnership, your advocacy on behalf of Fall River. I also want to recognize District Attorney Tom Quinn and this team here in Fall River. The mayor mentioned that we were just briefed by department heads, and that was very helpful to me and my administration. I want to recognize Chief Bacon and the entire Fall River Fire Department, who worked with such skill and dedication last week. The same goes for Police Chief Kelly Furtado and EMS Chief Beth Fonts, as well as EMA Chief Aguiar. Thank you to all the first responders. I also want to thank the members of the City Council and city employees who've been working very hard for their community, both during and after this tragedy. So I'm here today joined by our Secretary of Health and Human Services, Kiami Mahania, and our Secretary of Aging and Independence, Robin Lipson. We are here today to listen, to make sure that we understand what this community needs now and moving forward in the wake of this tragedy. We're also here to discuss what we're doing as a state to ensure that tragedies like this don't happen again. All of us, I know all of us here, are of the deep view that no family, no resident, no community should ever have to suffer or live with fear that something like this could happen to them or to their loved one. I want to start with firefighting resources. I think last week showed us how dependent we are on firefighters and first responders to keep us safe, particularly when it comes to the most vulnerable among us. There is no doubt in my mind that the numbers would have been unbelievably high were it not for the skill and the dedication of that response by first responders. So I want to make sure as governor that we are doing all that we can to support our first responders, that we are supporting local fire services as much as we can. For that purpose, today I'm announcing that I'm making $1.2 million in state funding available for Fall River to hire more emergency response personnel. I've instructed my team to expedite the release of funds in the municipal public safety staffing program. This $5.7 million in funding for that program is for police and fire. It will be open to all 10 eligible communities, which in addition to Fall River include Brockton, Framingham, Haverhill, Lawrence, Lowell, Lynn, Malden, Newton, and Somerville. I want to thank in particular Chair Mike Rodrigues for his continued leadership on this front, and to the legislature for making available and appropriating these important funds for fire and first responder personnel. Thank you very much, Chair Rodrigues. Thank you to the legislature. My job as governor is to make sure that money gets out the door and gets out very quickly. We're expediting this in light of the tragedy, again, with significant funds that are eligible by law. I also want to provide an update on what we are doing to ensure safety at all of our assisted living facilities across Massachusetts. Beginning yesterday, we launched a statewide fire and life safety initiative. These are steps to ensure that all 273 assisted living facilities in the state are prepared to prevent fires and protect residents during emergencies. Here are some of the things that we are requiring under the leadership of Secretary Lipson. Each facility must provide detailed information demonstrating compliance with fire safety requirements, including sprinkler systems, evacuation protocols, fire-rated doors and walls, emergency preparedness plans, and more. Each facility must issue a letter to all residents and family members of those residents within 5 business days outlining fire safety protocols, evacuation procedures, and key points of contact for questions or concerns. I have directed Secretary Lipson and her team to identify additional regulations that could further protect residents in assisted living. And some of the briefing, the important briefing we had from Fall River officials today, was very helpful in the formulation of potential recommendations and regulations. This work builds on progress of the Assisted Living Residences Commission established by the long-term care legislation that I signed last year. Again, my thanks to the legislature for bringing that forward and for prioritizing these issues. In closing, I just want to say once again that Fall River is an amazing community. It's a resilient community. Last week it was tested in the most horrific way, but I saw a city of neighbors who care about one another, who step up for one another, who look after one another. And I saw first responders and public servants do amazing things. And they do that because they care deeply about the people they serve. That is the spirit that I support today, that I applaud today. And I just want you to know, Mayor, that I will continue to be in close contact with you, with your team, and we will continue to support the great community of Fall River and its people. Thank you.
Governor, are you acknowledging?
I think we're happy to take any questions on topic.
Governor, are you acknowledging that the city did not have enough resources last week by allocating more money?
Absolutely not. What I'm doing is underscoring what has always been my commitment to first responders, to public safety. You know, whether as Attorney General or now as Governor, we want to make sure that we are working with the legislature that I know prioritizes this, as seen by the fact that this is money that has been appropriated each year. My job is to make sure that money gets out the door as quickly as possible, and that's what we're doing today for Fall River and for these other communities. We are always going to look, and it is a responsibility of government to take stock and to look at what happened, and are there things that could be done or should be done differently with regard to assisted living facilities or other places that house people, particularly vulnerable residents, and that was an important part of today's convening.
So given the level of inspection that was done just days before this and what they say was approved, from what you've learned so far, does it tell you that the rules have to be more stringent or more complete, or that the inspections did not do what they did under the current rules?
No, I can't draw any conclusions about that. And I welcome anybody else's comments here. I know this matter is under investigation by the state agency, the Department of Fire Services. And I think what's important here is that if there are things that could be done, if there are updates that need to be made, either by regulation or by legislation, you've got a team here that is committed to act. And it's not just a team in Fall River. I think that any elected official is ready to work in partnership with others at the state, local, and federal level to make sure that we're doing all that we can to secure and to ensure the public safety of all of our residents. And, assisted living facilities, I mean, many of you have loved ones that you know in people that you care about in these facilities. They're growing. People are living longer. People need housing. And so, we're at 273 statewide, and I think it's against that context that it was appropriate for the legislature, and I applaud them, in the passage of the long-term care bill, also with the establishment of the Assisted Living Facility Commission, to take a good look to make sure that Massachusetts is at the very top, as we should be when it comes to looking after aging residents, and that includes the most vulnerable among them.
Governor, in terms of your recommendations for assisted living facilities, it seems like they're still pretty reliant on self-reporting. So what is going to be the enforcement arm of those recommendations? Will there be any more in-person state inspections of these facilities? And then for Secretary Lipson, really quickly, is there going to be any review of how state inspectors handled Gabriel House specifically in 2023?
Well, let me offer this, and I'll invite Secretary Lipson to offer more. We're engaged right now. She is leading this commission alongside others, working with others on this commission, taking in information and making sure I know that what comes forward, what is brought forward, is the very best in terms of recommended next steps. And I can tell you that they are working as expeditiously as possible. They've been meeting over the last several months. In fact, they had a meeting just last Wednesday. And in light of the challenge and the tragedy here, they are going to be continuing to work over the coming weeks to make sure that any recommendations that come from that commission reflect important input and things that may have been learned through this terrible tragedy at Gabriel House. I don't know if you wish to say anything else.
I'll just add one quick thing. Thanks, Governor, and thanks for that question. Just to clarify, so at a minimum, our team that certifies these residences do a visit, a very in-depth visit with a full day or two of preparation before an actual site visit. They do that at least every 2 years, but we have the authority to go out unannounced and more frequently than that, and we do. So just know that that's baseline. And then we asked each of the 273 buildings to complete a survey for us and to submit that within the next few weeks to affirm and confirm that they have all the proper fire safety mechanisms in place, that they can document all their recent drills and when they were and how many people attended and so forth. So we'll be taking in that information. We'll make sure we get it from every building. And then we may use that information to go out and to do additional oversight where warranted.
And for the 2023 inspection, is there going to be any review of that? And one thing that stuck out to me was there were sanitation issues in the building, bed bugs, and none of that came up in the state report.
There are oftentimes findings from these visits. The residences must submit a plan of correction in order to be certified. So we have all that from 23. As complaints come up, as they always do, they are often directed to our ombudsman for assisted living, and then those complaints get reviewed and evaluated, and if a team needs to go back out and do another visit, they do. So thank you.
This question is for the governor. This tragedy has not only affected the Fall River and neighboring communities who were there as a mutual aid that night, but it's now affected everyone nationwide. On scene, seeing the memorial, people come by and cry. You don't even know these families, and they were affected. Have you spoken to the paramedics who were on scene that night and discussed mental health resources? How does that look moving forward?
I think it's early on in that initial conversation I had with Chief Bacon, that Monday morning that I was down after the fire. I think that was one of the first things we discussed, because, that is absolutely the case that first responders and those who are on scene for horrific tragedies like this experience that trauma, and need to have their own needs taken care of. It's so often the case that they all put their priority on the needs of others, right? And we commend them for that and their heroism and their willingness to serve in that way. It's also really important that we support their mental health. And as governor, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that we get those resources out to support first responders and those who serve.
Why does it take a tragedy of this magnitude to sort of take a closer look at these facilities and try and make a change?
It didn't. That started before this. As I say, the legislature passed the long-term care facility law last year. The commission's underway. In fact, it was ready to come out with some recommendations, and then this happened. So I thought it was very prudent that more time be taken to make sure that anything that could have been learned from this experience, this tragedy, is accounted for. But I can tell you every day there are inspections happening across the state. There are drills and fire safety and protocols that are happening, engaged in by local officials and personnel, as well as state officials and personnel. And I think the important thing for the public to know is every day we want to make sure